The entire extent of the damage from Russia's assault cannot be known at the moment. Westerners are hoping to apply economic pain and force President Putin to rethink his course. Welcome to the Financial Flow. Please like and subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications to stay up on our latest videos. As many of you know, there is a war going on involving Russia and Ukraine. It's a horrible situation and I do wish there could be a peaceful resolution. For this video, I really would like to discuss some of the sanctions that have been placed on Russia. A band of nations has restricted Russian banks from the SWIFT system and levied other sanctions against their central bank. We will see if the financial sanctions on Russia will have accidental consequences that could affect you and I. Russian military has begun their attack, and Ukraine's foreign minister has made heated calls for Russia to be banned from SWIFT. World leaders seem divided. Hopefully, we will see why. In the time since they have decided to move forward, the US, Britain, and the European Union has declared that the chosen Russian banks will be eliminated from SWIFT. The Society for Worldwide International Financial Telecommunications, or SWIFT for short, is a critical part that connects the world's banks. If you have ever sent money overseas, then you have used the SWIFT payment system. There are more than 10,000 global SWIFT member institutions. Around 40 million messages are passed through the network daily. Before SWIFT, transaction correspondence had to be written on the computer manually. The correspondence would describe the transaction in sentences, which were then interpreted, then carried out by the receiver. And as you can imagine, human error became an issue. Being frustrated with these 6 banks in Luxembourg and Paris, they started a new correspondence network, which would become the SWIFT company. SWIFT is considered an organization. It has a CEO and receives revenues by fees from banks joining, and also from other fees per correspondence, based on the type of correspondence and the length. Now, it secures trillions of dollars from trade and investment between around 200 countries. What do these Russian sanctions really call for? With Russia's invasion of Ukraine, leaders from the EU, UK, the US, and Canada have declared that certain banks in Russia would be disconnected from SWIFT. A representative for SWIFT said that the move would benefit the global community. They have also said the decision to impose sanctions was only in the hands of government bodies and legislators. What will these sanctions do exactly? EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen says cutting off banks will prevent them from governing most of their financial transactions worldwide. This also could effectively block Russian exports and imports. Not all is as it seems, as there are reports of getting the boot from SWIFT doesn't make transactions impossible. It just makes them much more difficult and increases the costs. Banks can also try alternative systems and communicate via email to send payment instructions. German government replied that the restriction would only affect Russian banks that were already sanctioned, which really means that the restriction has no teeth, and it seems to be purely political, just to alleviate populist outrage. The thing that seems to be crippling Russia at this time is the central bank sanctions in conjunction with the SWIFT ban. The US has barred transactions with the Russian central bank as well, and that means no dealings in dollars, euros, pounds, or yen. At the moment, Russian central bank has around $620 billion in reserves, but the reserves are mostly with the other institutions overseas. The move to stop the Russian central bank from the international transactions was intended to stop them from trying to bring assets into Russia. The intention was both to weaken the Russian currency and make financing difficult. As time has gone on since those days, it seems that there might be unintentional consequences. Removing Russian central bank out of the global economy is not going to come without some retribution. According to the European Commission, Russia is the EU's 5th biggest trade partner. The Eastern nation has provided much of the machinery and transport equipment along with chemicals and manufacturing goods to the West. These transactions might come back and affect Europe's economy. Germany may be hit the hardest with a huge percentage of energy coming from Russia. Unfortunately, the risks go far beyond Europe. This could really impact the US and possibly the rest of the world. See how the price of oil is also rapidly increasing, and oil has influenced costs to almost everything from the transportation of goods to manufacturing those goods. There is nothing more fundamental to costs than the cost of energy. It is the start of almost everything. It's not just for motorists. It's all sorts of businesses that will notice their costs rise. In the end, that means consumers will see their prices increase. We're dealing with quite a challenge, and it comes with existing obstacles for inflation. With rising geopolitical issues, Russia has seen this coming and has taken actions to reduce their dependence on the dollar. Over the years, the central bank has sold a lot of US dollar reserves and bought gold. Even more so, they have developed their own banking correspondence system, known as the System of the Bank of Russia, or SPFS. The new system is opening to mostly Belarusian banks and has already over 390 institutions. Russia is in communication with China to join their system as well. China also has their own system called the Cross-Border Interbank Payment System, or CIPS. At this point, you should start to see what's going on here. The world may be separating into two payment systems. One system for friends of the US and Western allies, then another for those who are cautious of the US. Imagine a future where rival nations turn similar financial weapons against the US. All of this could lead to a decline of the US dollar as the reserve currency. At the moment, oil payments are made in US dollars. Every single country needs oil, so this keeps the demand for the dollar high. This also gives the US a ton of leverage geopolitically. This is referred to as the petrodollar system and has been keeping the US in charge of the world economy since 1970s. Russia is the world's next largest oil producer. If they sold oil for gold, it would be the only time oil has been sold in something else besides the US dollar by a major player. In a recent Federal Reserve meeting, Chairman Jerome Powell said that there could be more than one reserve currency and they do benefit from being the current reserve currency for the world. The question is, if some want to move away from the dollar, what effect it will have on us? Do you know a better currency for them to use? What we can do is try and make the dollar the most attractive currency by continuing to have the rule of law, open capital accounts, and make an attractive place for everyone to invest and use in business. I don't think there would be any short-term effect, but over time, I suppose it would diminish our status as the reserve currency. It is possible to have more than one large reserve currency, so it is not transparent at this time. I don't think it's something that's going to happen tomorrow or the next day, but it is a trend that has begun and could continue into the future. JP Morgan and other Wall Street firms advised Washington against some of the Russian sanctions. They were saying that it might be far-reaching and could hurt the global economy, also undermine the purpose of the penalties. The sanctions have already hit Russia's economy hard. Their currency is the ruble and has fallen off, now being worth less than the currency in the mobile game Clash of Clans. People have been rushing to ATMs to withdraw US dollars and running to stores to buy food and anything that isn't nailed down. This seems to be an attempt to save some of their purchasing power. The Russian ruble collapsed in the late 1990s. The fall in the currency caused a difficult chain of events that over time led to the collapse of the loan firm. The collapse of this firm almost took down the whole global economy but was bailed out to the sum of around $4 billion. Now, Russia could default on hundreds of billions of dollars worth of bonds. Roughly half of their reserves have been frozen in the foreign exchange markets. If Russia don't pay their debts, experts say it could once again lead to diminishing chain of events. In some areas, Russia has the highest wheat exports in the world. This has made the price of wheat soar. Ukraine provides half of the world's neon gas, and this is critical for the manufacturing of semiconductors. There's a lot of things in movement at the moment, and no one knows how this is going to play out. Moscow provides 40% of Europe's natural gas. Gas prices on the continent have increased by a third since the invasion began. Russia is the world's largest wheat exporter. Prices last year were already 30% higher than in 2020. That's according to the UN's Food and Agriculture Agency. Economists are worried they might climb even higher. As for what to do financially, I personally can't advise you, but it might be worth taking some time to study hard assets and the sectors that you could see benefiting from these scenarios. For example, wheat and gold have risen in price quite a bit recently. In conclusion, maybe the world leaders have not thought through the effects of eliminating Russia from the global economy. Maybe they do know what they're doing. I personally think no one knows. The world unfortunately learned in 2008 that the global economy is incredibly complex and is impossibly integrated. It is extremely difficult for any one person or body to predict what's going to happen. But I think most can agree that the economic global risks have increased. We've imposed severe trade sanctions and we've imposed financial sanctions. But we haven't been willing to go after the oil and gas because Europe gets probably over 40% of its gas from Russia. Russia is still one of the 3 largest oil producers in the world. It would be damaging especially to Europe, but also to the US, to lay those kinds of sanctions in place. So we have decided to hold back on that to try to minimize the effect on the world. And we shouldn't fool ourselves, there is going to be a cost here to all of us. Oil is already over $100 a barrel. Europeans are paying 5 to 8 times as much for natural gas as Americans are. Action had to be taken against Putin to send us a signal. If anything can be learned, it's that war helps no one, whether if it's in Ukraine, Afghanistan, or Iraq. War leads to human suffering, and I hope that peace can be reached soon. I hate to see anyone dealing with suffrage and pain. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, give it a like. If you're new to the channel, hit subscribe and stay up to date by hitting the notification bell for our latest videos.